Welcome back to Mini Movies. Today I will explain an action drama film from 2021 titled Old Henry. In 1906 in Oklahoma, Brannigan is trying to get away from Dugan, Stillwell, and Ketchum, who are all wearing sheriff badges. No matter how fast he runs, Brannigan is still shot and captured. Ketchum kicks Brannigan, asking about another man they're chasing, but he won't say. This prompts Ketchum to tie Brannigan to a horse and drag him until he says, "The man they're looking for has gone east." Then, instead of letting him go, Ketchum kills Brannigan. In the meantime, Henry McCarty is working on his farm with his teenage son Wyatt. Henry grew up in New York and traveled extensively before settling in Oklahoma as a farmer. He lost his wife to tuberculosis, which was sad, but her brother Al helps him out a lot and is like an uncle to Wyatt. Their life is calm and happy. The only thing that makes them fight is that Wyatt wants to travel and learn how to shoot a gun, but Henry won't let him. It's still early in the morning, when they come across a wandering horse with a bloodstained saddle and no rider. While Wyatt takes the scared animal back to the farm, Henry rides his own horse, to check out the area and finds a man lying on the ground, unconscious. He is named Curry, and he has been shot in the shoulder. Henry covers the wound with mud and a handkerchief. He finds a gun and money, which tells him there's trouble he doesn't want to get involved in. He barely walks away before feeling bad for the man, so he returns, picks up everything, and takes Curry back to the farm with him. Together with Wyatt, they put Curry on a bed and cared for his wound. When night falls, Henry hides the gun and money in a secret compartment in his closet, unaware that Wyatt is spying on him through the door. The next morning, Henry decides that if they don't take the bullet out of the wound, it won't get better, so he'll go to town to get a doctor. But before he leaves, he ties Curry to the bed and puts the knife he uses to cut the rope on the night table. When his dad leaves, Wyatt goes to Henry's closet, to check out the secret compartment. When he saw the money in the satchel, he grabbed the gun and took it outside to practice shooting at a bottle, but it took him a few tries to hit his target. Back at home, Curry hears gunshots in his sleep and dreams about the night his house burned down, and his family was killed while the bad guy told him to keep his head down. After that, Wyatt returns to put the gun back in the closet and opens a box Henry hid there long ago. Inside, he finds another gun and a bunch of newspaper articles about various crimes. Speaking of Henry, he finds out on his way to town that Ketchum and his men have been following the trail Curry left behind. Stillwell is such a good tracker that he can tell someone has covered Curry's tracks, so the trio knows their victim is working with another. These men hear noises in the tall grass and shoot, but Henry is already running away by the time they find him. Back on the farm, Wyatt notices that one of the ropes around Curry's hands is kind of loose, and that his other hand is covered with a blanket. When Wyatt takes that blanket off, he finds that the rope is gone, so Curry stops pretending to be asleep and breaks free. Grabbing a knife from the nightstand, he jumps on Wyatt and swears he won't hurt him, he just wants his satchel back. At that moment, Henry comes back and kicks Curry off of his son. He then punches Curry until he passes out again. After that, Curry is tied to a chair and woken up. Henry decides that it is too dangerous to go to town to find a doctor, so he uses a heated knife to take the bullet out of Curry's wound while asking some questions. Curry, who is in pain and wriggling around, says he's a lawman and that Henry and Wyatt should leave before it's too late. The bullet is taken out, but Ketchum and his men show up outside the house, before Henry can ask some questions. Henry goes to get Curry's gun, but he can smell that it has already been fired, so he reloads it before going outside. Ketchum introduces himself as a sheriff, and his partners as deputies, then explain they're looking for Curry, a criminal, and killer posing as a sheriff. Ketchum is curious about Henry, so he asks him about his personal life. When he hears that Henry's last name is McCarty, he becomes especially interested. Henry tells them that he has no family, so it can't be a relative, and that he hasn't seen anyone who looks like Curry, so he sends them away. Ketchum tells them to lock their doors tonight before he leaves. Then, Henry goes back to the house and hits Wyatt for using the gun. Wyatt only wanted to know what it feels like, because he was the only boy in the area who had never been taught how to fire a gun, so he had to learn himself. Henry slaps him again for it, so Wyatt insults him and calls him useless, saying that Henry will be left alone to die because he'll leave the farm as soon as he can. Henry doesn't want to think about how much that hurt, so he goes to talk to his prisoner again. Curry explains that he is the real sheriff and that the three men are bank robbers who killed Curry's deputies and took their badges. He was hurt while getting the money back, so he passed out and fell off his horse while running away. He woke up here on the farm later. Curry wonders why Ketchum didn't shoot Henry, but they'll be back. Meanwhile, Ketchum and his men talk about what to do. They don't believe Henry and wonder if he was promised a cut of the money. Dugan doesn't understand why they didn't shoot him, even though they were 3 against 1, so Ketchum explains that something strange is going on. He doesn't think Henry is doing this for money, and he didn't exactly hold the gun like a farmer. First, they need to get some information, so Dugan will keep an eye on the farm while Ketchum and Stillwell go rent some guns and go see Al. When night comes, Henry tells Wyatt to go inside before he finishes his farm work, because it's too dangerous to be out this late. Later, Henry feeds Curry some soup himself, which makes Curry complain about still being tied up. Henry asks Curry about his past, to find out if he can trust him. Curry tells him about all the people he worked and lived with, and Henry knows some of their names from his travels. He also apologizes for jumping on Wyatt, saying he was scared and confused because he woke up in a strange place. Henry's face looks familiar, but he says he has never met Curry before. He decides to free at least one of his hands. Then, Henry puts his gun on the table and goes to get another drink. This is a test, to see if Curry will grab it, but he doesn't. Curry, on the other hand, keeps telling Henry stories from his childhood, like the time he saw Billy the Kid get shot. Curry heard Billy's voice in his dream the other night. Henry finally trusts Curry after hearing the stories and seeing him not grab the gun. He frees Curry's hand, gives him his gun, and tells him to leave before the criminals return. They don't get to talk about it any further, though, because Dugan starts shooting at them through the window. Curry shoots back, and Wyatt comes to see what's going on, getting shot in the arm in the process. Still, in pain from his wound, Curry passes out. Henry grabs his gun as Dugan sneaks under the house, and shoots through the floor every time Henry moves. Henry gives his son a gun and shooting tips, then throws a book on the floor to trick Dugan into shooting in one direction, while he runs in the other. Henry goes outside with his gun and starts shooting under the house until Dugan comes out and gets shot in the leg. Henry jumps on him and tries to get him to say something, but Dugan refuses to talk, so Henry kills him. When he sees a gang mark on Dugan's skin, he feeds the body to the pigs to make it disappear. Henry treats Wyatt's wound while avoiding questions about his past. Wyatt doesn't feel respected by his dad, and Henry can't expect it. After seeing that Curry is still dreaming about the fire, Henry takes his rifle outside and waits for the worst to happen. In the mornings, Al goes bird hunting, which makes it easy for Ketchum and Stillwell to find him. Al refuses to answer their questions about Henry, and when he defends himself, he's knocked out. Back at the farm, Henry and Wyatt are helping Curry get ready to leave. However, Curry can barely walk, let alone ride a horse, so he tells them to leave while he finishes up. Wyatt wants to stay and defend his home, but Henry agrees with Curry and sends him away. Unfortunately, when they get outside, they are in for a nasty surprise. Ketchum and Stillwell are back with a bunch of hired guns. When the father and son go back inside, Ketchum makes them an offer. If they give him Curry, he'll let them leave without hurting them. Henry refuses, so Ketchum reveals they've captured Al, who's hurt and bleeding. Furious, Henry grabs his rifle and gives it to Wyatt, telling him to stay inside, away from the window, and only shoot if necessary. Ignoring Curry's pleas, Henry confronts Ketchum, who admits he's not a sheriff and is dying to know who Henry is. Ketchum offers to trade Al for Curry, but Henry says no. Since neither Henry nor Al will tell Ketchum anything, Ketchum kills Al right away. This causes Wyatt to come out and shoot, so Henry drags him back inside as the gang retaliates, hitting Curry in the leg when he walks near the window. After yelling at Wyatt for acting without thinking, Henry tells him to keep his head down. Curry finally puts 2 and 2 together, when he hears these words that match his dream and realizes that Henry is really Billy the Kid and that he didn't die in the fire, he just got away. Henry doesn't pay any attention to him. Instead, he is focused on getting his old gun and holster back before going outside to start shooting. Henry kills a few gang members, before going back to the house through a window, and making a big enough hole for Curry to shoot a few more. As the other men start to circle the house, Henry grabs a knife and leaves through the back door. He quietly sneaks around and stabs 2 criminals, before hiding under the house and shooting a third. Then he faces Stillwell, who also tries to use his knife, but Henry kills him before Stillwell can even move. Ketchum is the only one left. He hides behind the pig pen and hurts Henry's shoulder, so he runs into the woods to make Ketchum follow. Both men shoot at each other from behind trees, but Henry is better and hits Ketchum in the leg and shoulder. Then Henry gets closer, and Ketchum gets off one last shot before Henry kills him for good. Even so, Henry's injuries aren't too bad, so as soon as he gets back to the farm, he goes to Curry for help. When Henry tears off Curry's sleeve to look at his arm, he finds a shocking surprise. Curry has the same gang mark Dugan had. Curry shoots Henry for seeing it. Technically, Curry didn't lie. He admits he was a sheriff, but a bad one. He and his deputies had worked with Ketchum before, but they heard he planned to kill them on their last job, so Curry tried to escape and it all began. Henry is in a lot of pain, but he is not yet dead, and Curry wants to be the one who kills Billy the Kid. But Wyatt comes and kills him before he can shoot. He wants to get a doctor for his father, but Henry says it's too late, so he wants to say some last words. Wyatt will hear many stories about Billy the Kid, so Henry wants him to know only half is true. He says he hasn't always been a good person, and he doesn't believe in redemption. All this time, he's just been trying to feel better by raising a good kid. Henry doesn't think he belongs in this new world, but he's sure Wyatt does. After crying over his father's death, Wyatt buries him next to his mother. Once he's ready emotionally, he packs up his things and rides away on his horse, just as he's always wanted. A man named Jilin has been sentenced to jail for murdering. Jilin and his fellow prisoners are chosen to be moved to a penal colony due to jail shortage. On the island, riots break out between the prisoners due to food shortage. They start killing each other and eat the dead for food. But Jilin somehow survives and finds a broken plane which needs to be fixed. Will he be able to escape the island? Click on the video appearing on screen to watch this video to find out. We upload new movies daily. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any video. If you liked the movie, consider sharing it with your friends. Show them you found a great movie today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.